I'm here with Coach Kevin Satler from Elite Athlete Fitness Equipment. We can't wait to dive in. They are one of our amazing partners who create incredible resistance bands for swim athletes, unlike any that I've seen on the market. And I'm excited to dive into why you created those, how you decided to start this business in the first place to help swim athletes and athletes around the country. Welcome to where we aim to highlight inspiring people doing amazing things in the Swim Strong family and in the greater swim community. But before we get into that, I want to jump into our rapid fire questions. Kevin, are you ready?
I'm ready.
All right, let's do it. First question. Who is your favorite cartoon character?
Roger Rabbit.
Oh, that's good. All right, favorite movie of all time?
Maybe Terminator.
Okay. How about your favorite candy?
Chocolate covered almonds. I don't know if that's candy, but that's,
That counts.
That's what I eat on a regular.
Nice. That counts. Favorite meal to eat when you're at a swim meet weekend?
I think Sharko's barbecue. I've been at some swim meets that had that, and that was pretty awesome.
Solid. All right. If you could meet any celebrity in the world, who would it be?
Oh, I don't know. Maybe I'll just go with Arnold Schwarzenegger, going back to the Terminator thing.
That's fantastic. All right. Last question. What's your favorite part about the Swim Strong program?
You know what? I love how you create opportunities for people to do those extra things that actually make a big difference. When there's lots of coaches that they don't know how to implement that into their programs because they're so focused on the swim side.
Yeah.
But the Dryland side, it's like overwhelming to balance both. And you can just kind of take that off their plates, and then they know they've got a good program.
We hope you're enjoying this week's podcast. We want to take a quick break to shout out our sponsors. Attention all high school and club swimmers and divers. Are you ready to take your talents to the next level and dive into the collegiate scene? Look no further than ACC Recruiting, your premier destination for college swimming and diving recruitment education. At ACC Recruiting, we specialize in connecting student athletes with the perfect collegiate programs that match their skills and academic aspirations. Our experienced team will guide you through the recruitment process, providing personalized support every stroke of the way. Don't let your dreams sink. Visit ACC Recruiting today and make a splash in your future. Dive into success with ACC Recruiting, where champions are born. Visit our website now or call us at 314-518-8844. That's 314-518-8844. ACC Recruiting, your gateway to collegiate swimming and diving excellence. Resistance bands are a must-have for Dryland. Elite Athlete Power Band kits are designed to give you a cost-effective way to improve performance and reduce the risk of injury. These high-quality kits last longer and are versatile enough to provide total body workouts anywhere, anytime. The levels of resistance are ideal for progressing youth athletes without weight increases that are too large. Go to the link provided on the Swim Strong Dryland website, click on the Training tab, and search Equipment Suggestion Lists and get your Elite Athlete Resistance Bands today. We appreciate that, man. Well, we are thankful to be partnered with you and absolutely love what you do on your end with creating high-quality equipment that we can utilize while doing Dryland. So many of our athletes and teams across the country have already experienced the difference that you provide, and I want you to dive into that. But first, if you wouldn't mind just sharing a little bit of your background, your journey, how you even got in to creating your own company with Elite Athlete.
Yeah. So I originally went to school as a PE teacher. So I studied kinesiology, exercise physiology, all of that. And I was coaching Summer Park District swim teams while I was in college. And so like everything I was learning, I was immediately implementing like the very next summer. And the strength training side of it always really fascinated me. And so kind of ever since then, I've always been the coach of whatever team I coached that ran all the Dryland stuff. And initially I was coaching high school right out of college. I did that for 7 years. And the great thing about high school coaches is typically they get like first dibs to like the fitness center and the facilities and all that. So I didn't realize how spoiled I was, as a high school coach, having, I can just use the fitness center. I can use the pool when I want to use the pool, not, the club team can work around me, And then after that, I went and coached at a Y, and I was like, whoa, okay, my resources are not what it was when I was a high school coach. And so I had to get creative and kind of improvise, go, how can I provide this really high quality training with these limited resources?
Yeah.
And fortunately, I had I had a swim team mom who was a graduate professor in a kinesiology department. So one of the most expert people you can consult with. And then I had another coach that was a personal trainer there that I hired as a coach. And he swam through high school and all that. And so between kind of the three of us, we figured out some really creative ways to have this effective training.
That's cool.
And probably the biggest part to that was the loop style resistance bands. Like we used a few different types of bands, and the loop bands, we could do exercises that the other ones couldn't do. And so I kept looking for different brands of that type of resistance band, and they were all marketed toward like big gym dudes. And I'm like, okay, so you've got this resistance that jumps up to this resistance way over here, kind of like going from like a 10-pound to a 20-pound dumbbell. If you're doing shoulder exercises, you can't make that jump. It's just not possible.
Right.
So I was like, all right, I kept looking around, couldn't find anything that had those like increments where you could progress through it, like how you can with a good set of dumbbells. Right.
Yep.
And so eventually I'm like, well, if no one makes it, I researched manufacturers, I researched all sorts of stuff, but I don't even know how many sample products just to like test everything out and see what was out there and what I could customize.
Yeah.
And then eventually after about 6 months of that, I was set on a couple different manufacturers, and they were able to customize the way I wanted it to be done. And then I put together my kits, and it's kind of been that ever since. And, I've made a couple little adjustments to what I have in the kits, but they've worked exceptionally well. I've got probably 200 local swimmers that I've worked with personally that are familiar with it and know how to use the exercises. And it's just that I feel like the athletes too are also a big part of the creative process. So I'm really big on, if I explain to them an exercise and they do it differently, I don't necessarily go, oh, that's wrong. I look at what they're doing and go, wait a minute, is there a benefit to doing it that other way? And so the athletes themselves have been a big part of my creative process of figuring out what are the best exercises I can do with these.
Yeah. So you are essentially in the process of coaching athletes and not having a lot of resources, which is the case for a lot of people, like a lot of swim athletes, a lot of swim teams, like a lot of swim teams are under-resourced, and there's a lot you can do with resistance bands, and you realize that coaching, but it wasn't anything that like fit what you needed for the different levels. And something that's unique, I've been using them a lot, like something that I think is unique too about your resistance bands is on the pool deck. Typical like resistance tubing, it seems to fall apart pretty quickly, like just being in a environment like that. But I've been using yours for a while, and I haven't even noticed a bit of wear and tear yet. And I'm not like legit, because it's double layered and so super functional at the same time. So was that something you had used bands like that in terms of like the double layer that you have, and like or did you create that?
That was part of my testing process when I was, and even before I started looking at manufacturers, I was just buying different brands that I could find out there and being like, what do I like about this brand? What do I like about that brand? And that was, I found a couple brands that were similar to what I have. And I'm like, this is how I want my bands made. And so I had to research the manufacturers and figure out who could make them like that. And they're very durable. I just consulted with an athlete that I used to coach years ago, and she still has her original kit, and her kit, it looks almost new. I'm like, how did you keep this? Like, my bands don't last that long. Like, I throw them in my garage and whatever, but she took good care of them. And it's like years later and they look almost new,
That's awesome. That's really cool. Well, being able to have a high quality product is something that's really important to me, and I'm sure everybody that we have the privilege of serving, because in the long run, it's going to save you money too for not having to buy a bunch of things over and over and over again because they fall apart after 6 months. But tell me a little about the passion behind it, though. So somebody might hear this and be like, wow, like that's like an oddly specific thing that like I think that, you know, not many people would think about doing. But to me, that's exciting because if you have something that you're passionate about, you see a need, and you're willing to like put in the time and the effort to figure that out, that's cool. Like that's how that's how people you know, do some of the wildest things, like, and have success across the world in all kinds of different industries that we're like, wow, how did you end up creating like a job out of that? So what was the passion behind it? Like, was it just the creative mindset, the desire to help in this specific industry? Was there like a just kind of, what was it that made you be like, I want to do this? Like you decided to do it yourself because you didn't find something you liked, but what was that spark that made you actually do that?
Yeah, so I think it was kind of two parts. So one was I saw the need for it, right? Like me, myself as a coach, I was trying to develop a good program that was cost effective, was within my budget. And I realized, you know, if I have this need, I'm sure there's who knows how many other teams out there that have that same need, right? And if I can fill that need and provide this for them, like how many different people's lives am I impacting, you know? And then the second part to that is a good friend of mine. He was an entrepreneur, like right out of college, and he's very successful, has multiple businesses, and seeing him be able to make that jump and put in all the time and the work, and then eventually it pays off, kind of gave me the confidence that, hey, if I put in this time and I put in this work, you know, I don't get that quick turnaround from it, but eventually it'll pay back. So that way it's not just putting in all this work for nothing, you know?
Yeah, no, that makes sense. And we love partnering with people that we believe in and respect to have high character, and also things that work. Like we were talking about this before we even started, but just we're very much like performance oriented. How can we make sure we give the best of the best to our people? And that's why I really like the product that you put out there, and the passion you have behind it. And resistance bands, in terms of like Dryland, there's so many uses, and the fact that you have so many different levels of them too, like for tiny stabilizing muscles in the scapula, for example, like little movements that you can do for shoulder health that you can't make those massive jumps to super thick bands, but a tiny like band that has almost no resistance isn't going to help you either. So I love how like yours is have all these different levels that people can choose from, so you can find what you need. But the impact of using resistance bands is undeniable for a swim athlete, and we incorporate that frequently in our Dryland programming. But if you had to say like your favorite part or favorite thing or aspect of the bands themselves that you create, what do you think is like the most unique aspect that sets you guys apart from everybody else?
I think it's really custom designed for youth athletes. You know, like you were saying, like those increments, they're in small enough increments that you can take a smaller muscle group and progress it from one band up to the next. You know, and the smaller muscle groups, maybe they only go up to the second level band, and that's the farthest they go. You know, maybe the, you know, intermediate sized muscle groups maybe will progress up a couple bands as they're progressing through it. Or, you know, maybe leg exercises, they might progress 3 or 4 bands up as they go. And yeah, I mean, that's really the biggest thing that I think sets us apart. And then the accessories that I have that go with it are custom designed to work with that. Like those steel rings that I have, like a lot of the competitors, they use like a little neoprene pad to cover up the nylon, but I noticed that would still wear out and then eventually dig into the band and it would break. And so it's like they're kind of designed to be durable, you know, like the clips too. Like I didn't have the clips on there because if you accidentally scratch the band with the clip, well, now you've got a little cut that's going to turn into a tear. So there's no clips on them to help prevent that. Like the straps that I have, what made me originally think of the strap was if you take a fitness rack, right? A lot of people would take the band and wrap it around directly to the fitness rack, but then they'd get little scratches and then eventually they'd tear. So I'm like, well, how do I prevent that? Oh, I make a strap and then it attaches to that metal loop and then that won't scratch the band, you know?
Yeah. For anybody who's used them and done that, they'll know exactly what you're talking about, because it always gets these little cuts and tears. And then you can, if they snap, it really hurts.
Yeah.
Or it can be dangerous, especially like if it hits you in the face. Like you don't want to mess around with bands that have like cuts and tears in them. Like those are, so anyway, but all those little details that you're talking about is why I love how you make them and what you do, because there's just so much attention to detail to every little thing. And I'm always someone who tells athletes and people in general too, if you're passionate about something and you're willing to work like crazy at it, you can make a career out of anything you want. And it's cool to hear different stories of people actually walking that out, even when people be like, oh, you're crazy. Like, how is that even going to work? How would you possibly create something like that? What would be, just kind of as like closing remarks, your advice to anyone out there who's got like some type of dream or goal or business idea or thing that they're like, I don't know if this could work or if I'm good enough to try this. Like, I don't know if you ever saw yourself doing this, like when you're younger, or if it just like came up and you're like, let me go for it. But what kind of advice would you give to someone maybe who's like, I have a creative mind, I would love to start this business idea? Just from your shoes, looking back, some advice you would maybe give to your younger self or to someone who's thinking about something like that.
Yeah. I mean, definitely, don't be afraid to step out of your comfort zone and step out of the box. I feel like that was the easier part for me. Like, I've always been someone that's like willing to do that. Mm-hmm. But then on the flip side, I think the harder part is the consistency behind it. Right. So I have a little saying that it's actually right above me right here. It says, success doesn't come from what you do occasionally. Success comes from what you do consistently.
Yes.
Right. And so I have to remind myself, because sometimes, life happens and I have to go, no matter what's going on, I have to be consistent to be able to make these dreams possible. So
that's great. I love that.
Definitely the key.
It always comes down to that. Like, that's always the answer to everything. Like, if you can have the greatest program in the world, the greatest ideas in the world. If you can't be consistent with it, like, you're never going to see anything come to fruition. So I think that's amazing. Well, Kevin, just to finish out here, how can people contact you if they do want to try out your bands and invest in the products that you're putting out, which are incredible? What's the best way for people to contact you?
Yeah, so on my website, there is a contact form. And I believe the link I have for you goes straight to a page that has that on there.
Perfect.
As well as some other like training resources, because there is a bit of a learning curve with it. I'm very open to consulting with coaches because I understand there's a learning curve. So there might be some creative ideas that I have that might help you figure out, I can utilize this space that I didn't think I was able to utilize this way.
Sure.
And that's always a big challenge. And I've helped out a few teams with that already. So.
Awesome. We'll be sure that people get that link in their hands and can reach out to you. But Kevin, thank you so much for taking the time
to
be on the podcast today. Yeah, absolutely. And definitely keep up the amazing work that you're doing. Thanks for all that you do for us in the swim community in general. We really appreciate it.
Yeah. Thank you.
Got it. If you enjoyed this episode, subscribe to our YouTube channel to catch a new episode each Monday. You can also check us out on social media at SwimStrong Dryland. If you would like to join the SwimStrong family, visit our website at swimstrongdryland.com.